Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Melissa Estevillo. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and owner here at Biltmore Psychology and Counseling. So today I wanted to talk about some of the different kinds of grief reactions that we can have when we experience a sudden loss, potentially versus when we can anticipate that we might be losing someone and experience grief in those situations. Going through the pandemic, we're now almost a year into this new world and this new reality. I think for many of us, we have known someone now that has passed away from COVID or passed away from another health condition that maybe they weren't able to treat as well because of healthcare system being different and access to care. And so I have seen this theme a lot in people that I've talked to, that it has been particularly difficult for them to deal with this sudden loss that can happen when someone gets sick and dies of COVID or some other health condition that crops up during this time. So I just wanted to talk with you guys about some common reactions to that, some common ways that we can grieve in a healthy way, since unfortunately, again, it seems to be something that a lot of us have been encountering and going through with loved ones or through loved ones and their family and friends. So some really common reactions to sudden loss can be primarily a sense of confusion. Well, when someone's been diagnosed with cancer and they live for 5 years, and in that process we kind of slowly see them changing and their health condition getting worse, and then talk with the doctor and lose them, that is hard. There's no taking away from that. But when someone suddenly gets diagnosed with cancer and they're gone within a few weeks, or they suddenly get sick with COVID and then they're gone within a month, that is a really confusing experience. There's something about the way our brain works and we hold on to these attachments that it really has a hard time so quickly shifting and being able to let go. So for a lot of people, they experience just this sense of like they don't feel right. They don't feel like the world is right anymore. They're not able to go through the Starbucks drive-through line and have the same kind of experience because the world is now changed, and it feels so confusing to accept that that person's not here any longer. Another common reaction, again, not a surprise, but it's just a profound sense of sadness. We don't have any of that opportunity to do the anticipatory grieving, being able to have some of the conversations that we'd like to have with people. And so again, that sudden loss brings about such a wave and intense type of sadness because we're experiencing so much of that in that exact moment or in those exact weeks after losing someone. Another one is a sense of anger. Sometimes people are angry because they felt like, oh my gosh, you didn't do the right things and you got sick, which is not appropriate to blame someone, but there can be this kind of projection of negative emotion onto the person that's passed away, or onto the physicians that were caring for them, or onto that person that was driving the car that hit, their loved one's vehicle. There's also just a general sense of anger about the fact that this loss is here. I think for many of us, we feel uncomfortable with a sense of sadness and confusion. And so we end up inadvertently feeling a little bit more of this protective emotion of anger, and then can feel that really deeply during this time. Another one, again, I think that can be surprising or confusing for people is a feeling of guilt and shame. It wasn't, our fault. It's not something that we did. It's not something that we could prevent. But again, our deep love for someone creates a place where we still feel a level of responsibility. If only I had done this differently. If only I had known. If only I'd gotten them to this doctor sooner. Maybe this could be different. Again, on some level, I think it's our natural inclination to try to take control and charge of the situation that truly we're helpless in, but the unintended consequences that we can feel really guilty and ashamed in these moments. Another thing, again, that I think is a bit surprising is the physical changes that can happen as we grieve. So we might have trouble sleeping. We might feel like we could not stop eating and we could eat everything in sight. We also might be in the other end of the extreme where we feel sick and we couldn't eat anything. Our body might hurt. We might know so we're not able to work out with the same kind of vigor and energy, and just feel utterly exhausted. Grief is a whole body experience, and it takes our mind so much work to be able to truly accept the reality that this person is no longer here with us. And so it, even in and of itself consumes a lot more calories during this time because it's working so hard. And so our body can really feel the impact of going through the grieving experience, especially in sudden loss. So how do we grieve in a healthy way? All of that I just listed, I said that's totally normal, and yet many people go, that seems wildly unhealthy. It seems really unhealthy to have inappropriate guilt, to be eating everything in sight, to be feeling profound sense of sadness, confusion, anger, projection of all of this emotion. First off, I think it's important for us to be kind to ourselves, that this is one of the most intense things that we can go through as people. But there are healthy ways to grieve. I think there are ways that we can do it so that it maybe doesn't feel like we're suffering quite so much. First and foremost, we need to grieve with others. Obviously, in a pandemic, we need to do it in a safe and socially distanced kind of way still. And yet, if we do this alone, it is 10 times harder. So when we're doing it with people and we're talking about stories and we're talking about things that were confusing and hard, and we're doing that for months, not weeks, months, and maybe even years ahead, we are grieving with other people, we feel more settled, we feel more grounded, and we don't feel like we're alone. Another thing is that we can't run from emotion. I definitely think that there can be a protective time in the beginning where we feel a little bit disconnected from our feelings. We might have a level of dissociation or almost denial where we're like, I feel flat. I really see that as that's our way of our body protecting us from maybe a surge of emotion that could feel so overwhelming. That's okay for a while. But if we're months or certainly years into this and we haven't felt that emotion, we haven't had that safe space to reconnect and to grieve and be angry and frustrated and confused, that's not the healthiest way. So the healthiest thing we can do is embrace that emotion and to have those conversations with other people and to know that it's okay to cry and that we'll come on the other side of it and we won't cry forever. And then lastly, I think that it can be helpful to seek out counseling. While all those things that I listed are totally normal and healthy, sometimes it's nice to just have a safe place with a person that gets it, that understands, that knows us. And we're able to talk through all of these kind of loose ends of feelings and thoughts and not feel like we have to be so polished. We can all just kind of throw it out there in a safe place and be able to walk away feeling a little bit lighter and feeling understood and feeling okay. And so these are some healthy ways to grieve. These are some very common experiences that we can go through, but as bewildering as these things feel, you're not alone and you're not abnormal, excuse me. And these aren't things that are signs that you're crazy. You've loved someone deeply. They should leave an impact on your life. And we should have moments where we don't feel quite right without them. That's a testament to our love and our connection to them. But we will feel okay and we will feel grounded and we will be able to get through as a reminder. So any questions that you have, as always, you can put those in the comments below. You can always like this video or subscribe for future content. And we want to hear a little bit more about what you guys want to hear as always. So take care if you're grieving out there. This is a hard time, but know that we're here with you through all of it. Take care.